So, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we want to welcome everyone to the first annual Breakfast with the Candidates. Before we begin, we want to let you know that the WCC will be recording this session. We also ask all the attendees to please take off their cameras so that we can see the candidates and put yourselves on mute. And of course, we want to have the candidates visible. We also recommend that if you want, you can put your Zoom on speaker view. That way, when each candidate is speaking, you can see them in a clear picture and they can have the full stage. I also want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Rosa Herrera. I work for Reach Voters as a project manager, and I am also a member of the Women's Chamber of Commerce. And I want to go ahead and thank you on the candidates that have taken their time this morning to join us. And I would want to go ahead and introduce each candidate. They're running for Miami-Dade County Commissioners, District 7 through 13. And I'm going to go ahead and give each one the floor to go ahead and introduce themselves. And we're going to ask 2 questions so that we can go ahead and cover parts of why you're running and why this election is important for your districts. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first speaker. I'm so sorry, speaking way too fast. But we're going to go ahead and get started with Ms. Raquel Regalado.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. As many of you know, I have a radio show at 9 o'clock, so I asked for permission to be with you guys here. Thank you for having this candidate forum. I think now more than ever, it's so important that everyone hear directly from the candidates. You know, we're all campaigning under unique circumstances, but I think one of the things that we've seen from this pandemic is that local government has really come home. People understand the role of the county commission and the county mayor in a way they never have before. And I hope we talk about those issues and how the decisions that are being made by people at the county commission, at the mayor's office, are impacting our lives and our children. About me really quick, I was a school board member for 2 terms. I ran for a position on the Miami-Dade County School Board when my daughter Isabella was diagnosed with autism. Isabella turned 17 in a few days. And shortly after, her brother Sebastian was also diagnosed with autism. So I'm the proud parent of 2 children in the spectrum and an advocate for children and adults with disabilities. And I really think that now is the time to have that voice on the county commission. We really don't have that type of representation. And we talk about how this pandemic has impacted everyone, but it has impacted people with disabilities more than any other. So happy to talk about school reopening, about the county's role in it. Yesterday, we finally saw that the county mayor is working with the superintendent. Us parents that have children in public schools have been using a decoder ring to figure out how we apply the McKinsey plan to what the school district and the state are proposing. So I hope we can talk about that. And the county is also in charge of Head Start and all the summer camps. My children are participating in the summer camps, fingers crossed every day, but we're using protocols that are very different to what the school district can do. So I hope we can talk about these issues. We can also talk about seniors, affordable housing, and obviously this district is very impacted by environmental concerns and also water and sewer. So that's top of mind too, but always a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move over to candidate Michael Rosenberg. I'm sorry, I believe you're on mute. Yep, thank you.
Okay, my name is Michael Rosenberg. I moved to Miami about 46 years ago from a small town in Kentucky. So I brought those small town values with me, even though I'm in a big city now. And I had my own business for almost 30 years and still have it. And in the first part of my life down here, I was concentrating on raising a family and building my business. And in 2008, I had a very, very high water bill and went to battle against the county to prove that the water meters aren't always correct. And it was a 4-year battle. I typically don't like to give up on anything. And that 4-year battle proved that the water meters were wrong. And since that time, they've passed new laws to allow people to have help when they have a high water bill. And thousands of people have saved millions of dollars. And that experience taught me that government is the way you can help most people. And so I started getting extremely involved. One of the first things was the Pets Trust, where 500,000 people voted to raise their taxes to help save the lives of our animals. And since that time, I've been involved in an endless number of issues in front of the commission. And what I've noticed in watching the commissioners, they've been there too long, 20 years, 25 years, 16 years, 12 years. It's time. It's like when you play Scrabble and you have letters that you don't need, you throw them in and you take out new letters and you start fresh. And that's what's exciting about this new board that's going to be coming in. We're going to have a lot of new people, a lot of new energy, and hopefully people that will listen to our community better than what we have right now. And I want to be a part of that, and that's why I'm running.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now we move forward to Ms. Cindy Lerner.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to have a dialogue and the voters to have this opportunity to learn more about the candidates. I grew up in District 7, went to all Palmetto schools, went on to college, law school, came back and worked at the Guardian Ad Litem program in Dade County Juvenile Court for 16 years, representing the guardians, the volunteers who advocate for the best interest of abused and neglected children. Early on in my career at juvenile court, it became very evident that the child welfare system, access to healthcare, social services, all of the aspects of what was supposed to be put together to rehabilitate families and provide nurturing environments for children was non-functional. I used to call it dysfunctional. And so it occurred to me that it was important to go to the source of that dysfunction, which was the Florida legislature. I began advocating for what I felt needed to be addressed in the failures of the court system, education, social services, and realized very quickly that many of these legislators knew very little and cared even less. And I had an instant recognition that to be the best advocate I could be, that I needed to be the one sitting on the dais, allocating the budget dollars where they should go, and changing the laws to be more responsive to the needs of the people that it should be serving. I ran for the legislature. I was elected in 2000 to House District 119, served one term, and then redistricting, moved the map and changed the districts, and my district was gone from where it had been. Fast forward to 2008, I was encouraged by my friends and neighbors in Pinecrest to run for mayor, which I did. I was elected in 2008, re-elected without opposition in 2012, served not only as mayor, but as president of the Miami-Dade League of Cities, and realized again that there was a disconnect between Miami-Dade County and the 34 cities. There was a failure of leadership and a failure of collaboration. So again, I had a realization and recognition that my next step needed to be at the county. When the seat opened up, I filed to run last April and have been working very hard ever since at getting out throughout the district and listening and learning.
Thank you so much. And now we move over to Mr. Marlon Hill.
Good morning, Rosa. Thank you for hosting, and for the members and the board of the Women's Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor to have breakfast to you. Like Michael said earlier in the green room, I'm waiting for the French toast. I'm not sure who would turn down an invitation with women who are charting their own destiny. So I'm Marlon Hill. I'm running to be one of your next 13 county commissioners on the dais on August 18th. I am a homegrown kid from South Miami Heights. My family came here from Jamaica in 1985. My mom was the last of 3 sisters. I mean, we arrived here. At Miami Southridge, I was in my classroom in my first few weeks being here from Jamaica, and a teacher asked me a question, Rosa, and I stood up to answer the question, and all the kids started laughing and pointing fingers at me. Why am I standing up to answer the question? Well, that's what I knew best in Jamaica. The first person that came to my defense, her name was Michelle Antoinette Ashby, and she started to reprimand the kids who were laughing at me. And she became my best friend. She was also from Jamaica, but she was born in New York. Later on, I left part of that support system at Miami Southridge. Michelle and I continued to remain in touch. Michelle went to Georgetown. I went to Florida State University, and we both ended up in law school. Michelle at University of Miami and myself at Florida State for law school. Later on, Michelle became my law partner as well after I left my firm, and we started our own firm together. Reason being, my wife Carla, who I also met at Florida State, was having a health life event at my firm, and we both left to start our own law firm. So from that time, Michelle and I had our law firm for 15 years. I'm the godfather to her 6 kids, and I'm proud to say that Michelle now is going to be a circuit court judge. She was elected unopposed this cycle and will be installed to the bench in January. I share this story because, women have been a central part of my practice as a business lawyer. I've counseled pro bono work and directly legal work on behalf of starting many businesses and entrepreneurs here in Miami-Dade County. And even in serving as a member of the board of the Miami Foundation, I've always been an advocate for inclusion and for persons to have an opportunity to exhibit their leadership. I want this same opportunity for the residents in South Miami-Dade County. I believe that South Miami-Dade County has been for far too long been neglected from having their fair share of an opportunity to chart their own destiny in Miami-Dade County. My whole goal in running for Miami-Dade County Commission is to ensure that they're more connected and not neglected anymore. For the last 24 years in serving as a nonprofit business leader and also trying to exhibit excellence in my own life, this is what I endeavor to do on the dais as well on August 18th. I look forward to the opportunity in crafting a shared vision with you, in providing this opportunity for more entrepreneurs, especially more women entrepreneurs, because I do believe that small businesses and entrepreneurs are the future of our economy, and we must do what we can to provide them the technical assistance, the financial assistance, and more importantly, the emotional and moral support needed to succeed and come out of this COVID-19 period stronger together, more safer and healthier as well.
Thank you so much for your time. And we will also move now forward to candidate Mr. Christian Mancera.
Good morning to everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. And I am a candidate for Miami-Dade District 11 Commission seat. And I am running for this seat because I have been living in this district for the past 12 years. I have seen the necessities of the community and the needs that we all have to move forward with a different vision. I want to bring to this county commission a community-based type of leadership where the community is involved, where we all have the ability to lead together, having like constant meetings with the community, getting the community involved in how we solve common problems, and not having the mentality that we have had over the past 20 or 30 years, where elected officials forget and are rarely seen by the community and sometimes make decisions like we have seen recently with the COVID-19 without involving the community. And I think that what we need in this district is smart solutions based on technology, social and economic development that are based on entrepreneur hubs that allow our children to grow, stay, and provide and invest in our own communities, and how we are able to move our small businesses forward with a vision of the 21st century where we remove a bunch of regulations that make opening a business here in Miami-Dade more difficult than in other places in the nation. And as we, as a district, focus on technology, bringing solutions for mass transit, bringing solutions for affordable housing, and most important of all, how do we use technology? For example, in this case of COVID-19, how do we apply technology and very simple solutions like creating a very simple app where we can actually know in real time where are the COVID-19 like focus areas, and that we can tell people that we cannot close, but we have to move forward in a very responsible way, that we need to trace everybody who is sick. And how do we do that? We do that by involving the community and understanding that we cannot govern without it. And I think the main problem that we have had over the past few years is basically that, not involving. I am a person, I am a Colombian lawyer. I am looking forward to being accepted in the California and Louisiana bars. Unfortunately, Florida is a very complicated state for foreign lawyers, but I look forward in the future to being admitted here as well. But I have been committed over the past years to working with communities here, Colombian community, Venezuelan community, and other communities, in how we build different projects together, even though in some cases we have people who have different ideologies. But I have been able to put in place different organizations that help Colombian expats, different communities here in my district and in other different places. And I think that proves that we can work together, that I am able to work with different people from different ideologies, because I believe in not that because you're different, you're my enemy, or because you're different, you are a person that I cannot talk to. I believe that within that difference, we can find common ground and issues that we can work together and push forward to benefit the community that we all belong to. And that is one of my priorities, bringing leadership, involving the community, bringing technology as a base to move forward, and involving everybody with a inclusion that allows every single stakeholder and person involved in the community to reach out to me and make my commission seat a success for District 11. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we move forward, I wanted to ask if Mr. Adrian Jesus Jimenez is here. No? Okay. So now, thank you to every candidate for taking the time to introduce yourselves this morning so that we, the voters, can get to know you better. And I also want to move forward with a second question, which would be, what is the biggest issue facing your district and how would you solve it? I also want to go ahead and encourage the audience on the Zoom this morning to, if you have any questions you want to ask the candidates, feel free to put it in the chat room and we will go over them towards the end. So let's start again with Ms. Raquel Regalado.
Thank you. Listen, I think COVID has changed everything. I think right now, if you ask what's the biggest issue, we're all talking about COVID, about schools, about childcare. Before COVID, I would have told you that the biggest issue in this district was water and sewer, septic, the lack of connectivity to the water and sewer. We're looking at the issues that septic and runoff is having in Biscayne Bay. But right now, over the weekend, I've spoken to hundreds of parents who have yet to fill out this survey. And we got to talk about how the county needs to help. Right now, our issue is that the county issued the McKinsey report. The McKinsey report establishes the reopening of our county by colors instead of by phases. The state of Florida, the federal government, and the school districts are all talking about phases. And I've been trying to explain to parents how to match up this McKinsey report with the phases, because right now we're looking at going back to school in phase 2. But the McKinsey report doesn't provide you with information on what is phase 2. It only gives you colors. So it's very confusing. I know that the superintendent had a meeting yesterday with Carlos Jimenez and they're trying to fix the issue, but we have to be honest about how the shutdown of our school system is impacting our economy and specifically impacting lower income parents and women. This is impacting women. Virtual schooling impacts women. For women who are retired and are grandmothers, it's a different, issue. But for those of us who have children, I have the ability to work from home, but it was very difficult to work from home while homeschooling 2 children. And the same thing with our teachers who are mainly women. This impacts female workforce in a tremendous way. And one of the issues that I've been up against for over a decade is this idea that women should only be involved in government after they raise their children and send them off to college. And I disagree with that. I think women should be involved in government at all ages, at all phases, because there is no perfect moment to get involved in government. There is no perfect moment for leadership. And that's why the Women's Chamber of Commerce is so important, because you run the gambit of all ages and you involve women at a young age, as opposed to the old mantra, oh, wait until you're over 50 before you can get engaged, because somehow getting involved in government makes you a bad mother. I ran for office when my children were 6 and 7. And people actually told me that, you know, wait until your kids are older, you're not going to have time. And I disagree. I think my children have learned so much from me being an elected, and I was able to do so much for my children and for other children in the school district because I had children in schools. I didn't have someone telling me about children in schools. The same thing with children with disabilities. I have 2 children with disabilities. It's not someone that's telling me something or something that I'm observing. I actually live that. So I think right now, our biggest issue is the impact that the closing of schools and the reality that come August, we're probably going to be virtual, is having on women in the workforce, and the impact long-term that it's going to have on their trajectory and their ability to move forward.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. And now we move over to candidate Mr. Michael Rosenberg.
I'm a ultra optimist, and I believe that there will be a vaccine, and I believe that 2 years from now or a year from now, we'll look back on this as an awful blip in our history. But in the meantime, everything that was here from before will be back again. And what's interesting, I have a new neighbor that moved in, and she was mentioning how great the traffic is, that there's none, that you can just get any, that it must have been fiction that there was bad traffic in Dade County. So I showed her videos from the past that they're not fiction, it's nonfiction. And endless lines of cars on Miller and Sunset and Kendall Drive and Killian and all over the place. That's going to come back. And so there were 4 ideas that I specifically presented to the commission. And one of those ideas was, if you carpool, the MDX roads would be free. So if you carpool during rush hour, you don't pay for tolls. The second idea is transit would be free. Now, that's extremely important because we almost have to go so far as to pay people to get on the buses and the trains. Well, we're not going to do that. So the next best step is make it free, at least for a year, encourage people to get out of their cars and try it. I've been experimenting with it before the COVID, and there's a lot of value in your own life to be able to take transit and leave your car at home. A third idea is shopping centers. They're all over the place. Create parking spots in those shopping centers where people can meet up and carpool. And there's too many people driving to the same job, driving by the same shopping centers. And you could just carpool. And the last idea is staggered hours once the world is open again, so that different businesses open at different times downtown, and encourage those businesses to open later with all sorts of incentives. And the reason that I want to be on the commission is, well, a lot of the commissioners really like those ideas. And one commissioner went so far as to reach out to the head of MDX to talk about the idea of having a free tolls if you carpool. And his extent of reaching out was one email, and he didn't get an answer. Well, that's not how you do it. You go down to the MDX director's office if he doesn't answer, and you sit in his lobby, camp out in his lobby, spend a week in the lobby if you have to get an answer and discuss this issue. That's the way I work. So traffic for me is number 1, and it's going to be back with a vengeance.
I keep forgetting I'm on mute. I'm so sorry. And now we move over to candidate Ms. Mr. Lerner.
Likewise, as with the other candidates, there were more pressing priorities pre-COVID than post-COVID. One was traffic gridlock. If you look at District 7, US 1 intersects District 7 from the far western tip all the way to the far eastern tip at I-95. And the failure of Miami-Dade County to meet the promises that were made in 2002 with the People's Transportation Tax, the half penny, and provide not only the 89 miles of expanded transit that should have been provided, but an additional more than 1,000 buses to expand the transit system and the connectivity throughout the county. Again, we are all experiencing shutdown. Many of the businesses have been closed, the schools are closed, and many people are working remotely. I believe that once the virus is attenuated through hopefully a vaccine, the opportunities we've found to work remotely for many will continue. And traffic may be less, but it is still a huge challenge that has got to be met by investing in the transit modes that we know need to be invested in. Actually, the county for the last 20 years has been in paralysis, in my view. They have not invested in infrastructure in any place, whether it's our parks that have not been updated and upgraded, water and sewer have not been updated. The sewer lines are 40, 50, 60 years old and bursting literally into our water sources. So it's time to take action on all of those issues. The second major issue, which is still looming and still must be addressed, is flooding. The challenges of not only sea level rise, but the impacts of climate change are imposing more frequent storms, more intense rainstorms. So we're flooding with and without hurricanes when we have storms. And again, the county has done a very poor job of assessing countywide the vulnerabilities, prioritizing where the most vulnerable populations and places are and infrastructure is, and making those investments. I've had the experience for the 8 years as mayor, working at the local level, state and federal level, to learn best practices, know exactly what we need to do to move the county forward. Post-COVID, clearly the economy is going to suffer greatly for a very long time. We have been way too reliant on the tourist industry as our major economic engine for decades. And it's time to diversify our economy, strengthen small businesses, short-term, shore up the grants and the forgivable loans that are possible and have not been deployed the way the county must do that, and then bring in some new industries so that we have a broader reliance, one being our agricultural sector, which is a multi-billion-dollar economy, but it's been reduced to a wholesale economy. We need to open it up to retail, open it up to farmers markets, and give micro businesses more of a chance to work with that resource that is right there in South Dade County. And lastly, the solar and renewable energy. Miami-Dade County needs to become a leader in renewable energy industry.
Thank you so much. And now we move over to candidate Mr. Marlon Hill.
Thank you, Rosa. One of the biggest issues that is going to be facing us is the health of our economy, and looking at the health of our economy pre-COVID and post-COVID. So we're going to be dealing with, hurricanes come and hurricanes go. Pandemics are going to come and pandemics are going to go. And our economy still has to be resilient. How are we going to create this type of resilient economy that will allow small businesses and entrepreneurs to thrive? As a business lawyer for the last 24 years, I can't tell you the number of nonprofit organizations and entrepreneurs that I've counseled that have gone through various life events, health life events, crises. And ultimately, any entrepreneur and small business owner will tell you that you must have a strategic plan in order to become more resilient and to withstand these storms that are going to come in our lives. I can say this in speaking with hundreds of entrepreneurs, many of them women, including my aunt Rosie Gordon Wallace. She wanted to leave her regular job. This was almost 25 years ago. I just came out of law school, and she wanted to start an art gallery in Wynwood at the time. Wynwood was a place where no one wanted to go. There were bumbleweeds rolling down the street. Folks would avoid going to Wynwood. And I sat down with her, and we crafted a plan to start her own social entrepreneurship gallery, Diaspora Vibe Gallery. And 25 years later, she's now helping emerging artists to craft a destiny for their own lives. I believe this is the type of support system, Rosa, that we need to kind of create in our economy, especially for a region like South Miami-Dade County, where we have a number of people that live in South Dade, but don't work in South Dade, right? So one of the things that I would love to do is to finally execute a strategic plan for the economy in South Dade, where we can cultivate and nurture and support more small businesses and entrepreneurs, because I do believe that there are hundreds, if not thousands of women working for the county or in government or working for another company that would love to start their own business. How can we provide them more technical assistance, financial assistance, so that they can determine exactly how they want to strive and thrive as small business owners? Because I do believe that they are the future of the economy. I know the Economic Development Council is working on such a strategic plan. I do believe that we need more stakeholders from the community, individuals and other nonprofits to be part of the strategic plan, because this is one way that we're also going to reverse the traffic flow coming north by having more businesses starting in South Dade and folks not only living in South Dade, but working in South Dade. It's also going to put more money in their bank accounts so that they can afford the home that they dream for their families. It's all connected to the economic opportunity across the board, irrespective of socioeconomic status and irrespective of their personal national heritage backgrounds as well. This is an issue that will allow the community to meet the shared challenges that they have, and it will be a priority for me as the next county commissioner for District 9.
Thank you so much. And now we move over to candidate Mr. Christian Mancera.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest priorities, as many of my colleagues have stated, is how we move forward from this COVID-19 crisis. I think that, as I said before, we need to understand that this virus is here to stay. We need to learn how to apply simple and smart solutions so that we can live with this virus, but not move forward into a scenario where we have a lot of cases and we have a lot of death as a result of opening up. And I think that we cannot move back and close. That being said, we need to focus on a few things. One of my priorities is creating, and I have stated this from the beginning, entrepreneur hubs. The way that we move forward in allowing people to stay in our neighborhoods and in our district is by fomenting and propelling many people who have very interesting initiatives, and they need monies for this. As we know, many banks don't lend money unless you have money. So we have a program that allows our residents and community, especially those young and mature and even senior entrepreneurs who have very good ideas, but they don't have the funding to create and put these ideas to work. I think that we have an entrepreneur hub, like a think tank that allows people to go to a specific place within the district and serve as an example so that other districts can follow and do the same thing, and we can propel our communities to build businesses that can reinvest within those same communities that they come from, that would allow them to stay and to make Miami-Dade a county that depends greatly on its own community and own resources, and not what has happened in the past, that we have depended on other aspects of the economy to propel our resources and how we invest in infrastructure and other aspects. This is one priority that I have, which is investing in our people. And when you invest in your people, you have quality of life for your community and for the whole county. And I think that's something that we must have as a priority. Also, one of the other priorities that I have in mind is something that I have put in place in my program, which is called the Unified Transit System, or a master plan, where we involve all the possible transportation alternatives to allow traffic to be more acceptable and for people to enjoy different areas of the county. In the case of South Dade, West Kendall, and Homestead, all of these areas, especially District 11, we need to put in place something that I have created in my program, which is smart stations. We have seen over the past 20 years to 30 years, people sitting in stations waiting for a bus for 1 hour, for 45 minutes, in cases for 2 hours almost, under the sun. And this doesn't motivate people to use the public transportation. If we are able to build smart stations that are propelled by electric energy, by solar panels, that we have a very affordable dashboard where people can see when the bus will come, what routes are available for them to take, and where they can go from that bus station. I think that we can encourage people to really use public transportation. I think what we have had in the past, people in the county commission and politicians who are stuck in a 20th century vision of how to do things. And people keep re-electing themselves, and over we see the same people. And the main problem is that these people are elected by the same people who have special interests, who are not interested in bringing those smart and simple solutions to the county. And I think that's the main issue that we have at hand. So that's why we need a new vision. As one of my colleagues stated earlier before, we need to have different people in that county commission that will have the people's interests at heart, and that should be the priority. So when we think about those smart ways to solve traffic, we don't need big money. We just need to have this and to apply simple technological solutions that will allow us to move forward. It is absurd that over the past 30 years, we have a metro system that ends in day length, and we've never thought of like implementing BRT through Kendall Drive, for example, or through Killing Parkway. And it's just simple solutions that don't require much money, but it just requires the political will to do it. And I'm going to bring that to the county and to the county commission, because I think it's high time we do it. It's not about like making people interested in using public transportation. It's how you sell it. If you sell something to a community and you tell them that you have now a very effective way of using public transport, and you endorse or you encourage the use of smart energies to propel these buses, to propel the trains, and we use, for example, commuter trains to communicate, to connect, for example, Homestead, West Kendall to downtown, using, for example, all of these new alternatives that we have in downtown, so we can go from downtown to West Palm Beach, for example. Those are things that we need to do, and we have the rails to do it. It's just that we haven't had the political will to do so, because these politicians have been focused in building roads, tolls, so that we can suffer as citizens, so we can pay who knows what for what, and there's no accountability. So I think my main priority is to bring technology connected to entrepreneur hubs that allow think tanks to guide the community, so they can build businesses that can reinvest in that community, so that we can develop traffic and smart solutions to bring to a close a problem that we have had for the past 30 years, and we have not had a real concrete solution. And I am not politically connected to anybody. I am a person from the community, from this district, and that's what we need. We need to push these people out, and we need to bring new blood into the county, so that we actually have the community's interest at heart, and not some special interest who's giving you like $500,000 for a campaign for who knows what. And then at the end of the day, you're not really representing your community. You already sold your seat to someone, and then you're going to go in there not to propel the necessities of the community. And that's going to be my priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the candidates for your incredible input and why you're passionate about running in your districts. I want to go ahead and move to the chat room. We do have a question sent to us by one of the attendees. And any of the candidates who may have the answer, please feel free to chime in. It states, in what way or format will you commit to ensuring that everyone in your district will be provided the accessibility to opportunities that come down from different levels of government?
Well, I'm happy to answer it. I think, first of all, some people talked about retail. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing a retail apocalypse that was already coming. And I think that, now is where we're going to see the impact of that. One of the things that's important is that the state of Florida reopening plan has over 15 pages just on vocational training. As someone who spent years at the school district talking about vocational training and has been at the forefront of that because of my work with my children and autistic adults in general, and the need to really have vocational training for people with disabilities, I think now is the time to really course correct. When I ran for mayor in 2016, I wrote a white paper on the need to change vocational training and to focus on education. And now the pandemic has given us, once again, the ability, an opportunity, and the necessity to really change our workforce. And again, this impacts women, women who do not know how to use technology. Those of us who can work from home and have that ability, if you don't have the skill set, you're going to get left behind. We're going to see a lot of women that are just not prepared for this new workforce because of age or because of access, and we really have to focus on that. We also have to start, rethinking our economy. But I think the main thing is, look, these platforms, some people don't know how to use it, but I was on a meeting recently that normally is attended by 50 people. It was attended by 150 people. Now, granted, there is a generational issue. People under 50 are the ones that are using these platforms to participate in meetings. And that's why we're going to have a hybrid where we provide people an on-site place where they can go and use the technology. But I think COVID is providing us with a different way of communicating. We're all sitting in each other's living rooms. We save a lot of time, but we have to get the word out to people. There's an entire generation of people like myself who receive their information on podcasts, who don't watch TV, who are just harder to reach. And that's why, as a government and as leaders, we have to understand the generational divides and really start speaking to people in the mediums that they use to receive information so that everyone participates and not just simply people over the age of 60, which is sadly what we see in most government meetings in Miami-Dade County and definitely in elections in Miami-Dade County. But we have to dramatically change what we're doing to provide access. And I think now's the time, and there is funding and the ability to do that because of how the CARES Act was established and because of the conversations that we're having in Washington and at the state level.
I'd like to add that I've had my company for 30 years now, and we make things that are personalized. And the philosophy that we've always had in my company is that treat every order as if you were making it for your mother. And the reason for that is you want to make it perfect. It's for your mother. And so I would take that same type of values to being a commissioner. Every person that would be in my office, including myself, would treat every person that called this office with utmost respect. My phone number is 305-439-3571. We will always be available for hands-on help. That's what's missing right now. Try to call a commissioner's office and get personalized help. It's very difficult. That will change when I'm in office.
I'd like to respond also. The question was how to assure that our constituents would have access to information about and the ability to respond to resources as they become available, whether it's state or federal or even private nonprofits or different philanthropies. So what I did when I was first elected mayor was to set about engaging the community, the constituents in a two-way dialogue. And the best way to do that is to create advisory groups so that the two ways being when I am receiving information, I have a mechanism and a process to share. But by the same token, I have the opportunity to listen and learn what the priorities and needs are of the constituents. I had an education advisory, a transportation advisory, most proud of my youth advisory council, which still continues. So it's really critical that as commissioners, we provide those venues. I would also say that as a result of what has happened with the shutdown and the tragedy, it's almost criminal neglect by the state of Florida to not be able to provide access to unemployment, that the county commission did very little other than complain to the governor. It was the state legislators who opened up their offices and provide opportunities to help with the application process. Well, the county commissioners need to do that too, would need to utilize county resources. I think closing the libraries was one of the biggest mistakes the county made, because your neighborhood library should be a resource center for whether it's COVID or not. You could have a safe environment in a library with social distancing and different hours to allow people to have access to the internet, access to the resources that can come down through the county. And that's an obligation of each commissioner to make sure those things happen.
Thank you, Rosa. This is such a very important question in regards to accessibility. And in my opening comments, I talked about South Dade being more neglected than connected. I sincerely believe this. It's one of the reasons why I give out my cell number at any juncture that I can make. Even as a practicing attorney, in my engagement agreement, I include the fact that you must get a return phone call within 24 hours, because I believe that every citizen deserves to have access to their government whenever they need to, whether it's a complaint, a concern, an idea, recommendation, or it could even be an innovation. This is very important to me. I've been trying to build a very grassroots inclusive campaign. I'm probably one of the only candidates that has the most individual donations as opposed to from companies, lobbyists, or unions, because that I believe every citizen should participate in their government, whether it's at $5, $10, or whatever amount that they can give, but they should also be able to access our campaigns as well. I also, my business card is in Braille. In some of my campaign materials, I have residents who have disabilities in our campaign materials. We must have an inclusive government that is accessible to every resident and citizen who wants to participate, irrespective of their state in life. This is the only way that they may have a say in some of our short-term or long-term challenges, you know, whether it's building a water park at the zoo, or repairing broken lights or overgrown grass at a neighborhood public park. We must be accessible. I was just having an exchange with some of the residents in my district on Nextdoor. So whether you reach me on social media or you reach me by text, whatever way you can communicate that you're comfortable, whether it's at the public library, we must have an open government that will allow every single person, business owner, powerful, not powerful, vulnerable, not vulnerable, must have a say in the future of our county. And I hope to create this type of accessibility as the next county commissioner for District 9.
Well, in regards to that question, I think that there's something that we need to point out is that, as I said earlier, in terms of using technology, my district, for example, currently has an app where people can access certain types of information, but nobody knows. I would say probably 90% of the people, or maybe 95% of the people in this district have no idea that app exists. And there's no communication with the current commissioner. And I think this idea of having ghost commissioners, that they only appear in the commission meetings, but they never are seen around the community, that has to stop. And I think the main issue that we have had over the past few years is having access. But you have access when your elected officials understand that they were elected by a group of people who believed in these ideas. I said earlier that when we elect the same people over and over, they're not elected by the community, they're elected by special interests. So that's why these people are ghost commissioners. They are there representing certain types of interests, but they're not there representing that community that they should be representing. And I think that has been the main issue. One of the main priorities that I have is, as I walk around, I'm knocking doors, and now I'm not doing it because of the COVID-19 spike in cases. So I've had to make phone calls, reach out through emails, through flyers, through the mail. But before I was doing that, I was actually walking and knocking, standing on traffic lights, letting people know that I am running for this district, because most people don't even know there is a district, and most people don't even know there is a commissioner. That's how bad it is. So if we propel a different type of leadership into the county commission, and we allow people to know that you have visible leadership that is able to answer your questions in real time, and we use technology, I'm going to make that my emphasis, that we need to connect with technology, and we need to have think tanks within the county that guide people and have campaigns. I've also, by the way, been an educator for the past 15 years, a lawyer and educator. So I know the virtue of pedagogical strategies that allow people to learn things, even if they're seniors, on how to use smart ways to communicate with their leadership. So my priority will be to have an open door, but also to bring a complete and renewed vision on how leadership should look for the community. I also want to point out that leadership is about not thinking you're some kind of Greek god that people have to be like after you, like, I don't know, like you are like on top of the world. I believe that leadership is about being elected by a group of people who believed in a program, who believed in your ideas. And by doing so, you owe them, you owe that community a complete access to your program, complete access to your office. And I think that if we're able to work with different commissioners who are elected, who come in with the same ideas, as I have seen here, that some are running for a commission seat and who are new and bring new visions to this government body, I think that we can actually build this idea of really representing the people who we say we represent, and not just 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people who, that's okay. I mean, you know, they're not doing anything illegal. They're paying someone to go there to represent their interests. But I think that we have to make an issue that we are here to represent a community. In my case, District 11 needs desperately a change in leadership, because I have seen it over the past 12 years. We need to have access to leadership, access to new ideas, and I think that's going to be my priority. So access will be definitely something that will not be an excuse if I am elected.
Thank you so much to all the candidates for addressing this very important question. We also had a question within our chat that was in regards to campaign raising and spending. We want to take this time to remind our viewers that you can see all campaign spending on the Florida Department of Elections site. This is public record, so please feel free to visit that page. So now we want to go ahead and move forward to our closing statements. And we also want to ask our candidates to state a fun fact about yourself that most voters or the general public would not know. So we're going to go ahead and start with Ms. Raquel Regalado.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I think these forums are so important, and I hope that you all send us the link so that we can share it. I mean, I have a large social media platform, and I know that a lot of women use that to communicate. As a radio person, you know, I always have to say, you can tune into the radio too and listen more about what's going on in our community. But really, this election is so important, and we're so concerned about what's going to happen with early voting and election day. So if you want more information on voting by mail, please feel free. I can send you the information. I put some information on the chat about schools since the deadline is July 15th, and it's so important for parents to participate. I also put my cell phone, 786-306-9180, For those of you who've contacted me on social media, I don't hire someone to do my social media. I do it myself. So you'll always be talking to me on all of the platforms, and I'm happy to help with everything you need, especially if you're dealing with children with disabilities. I think that it's so important for parents to understand the resources that are available. And we're actually working on putting together a free guardianship program because like my children are getting older, we have to deal with guardianship. We've been trying to change the law on guardianship in the state of Florida for a long time. But now we have a group of attorneys, including myself, who are going to be doing this work free for parents that have children with disabilities and are low income, so that they can start moving that process forward. And we're also helping with the Medicaid waiver, which, as many parents know, is a 7-year waiting list. And really, we need to do that as soon as possible. But this race is really important. Who's on the county commission is really important. I hope to have your support. I was an advocate on the school board. I'll be an advocate on the county commission. I know that every now and then people get a little upset about me being a little too aggressive, but I think now more than ever, it's important to have people who get things done at the county commission. I'm happy to have the support of the Coral Gables mayor, of the vice mayor, of the current commissioner, of the current city of Miami Commissioner Manolo Reyes. Also, I have wonderful relationships in this district that I built as a school board member. And I think now more than ever, we have to build on those relationships. So you can follow me on social media. I'm very easy to find, Raquel Regalado on Facebook, on Twitter, Raquel A. Regalado on Instagram. And then fun fact about myself, I am a very proud Coral Gables Cavalier. I graduated from Coral Gables Senior High in 1992. I love Coral Gables Senior High. And yes, I was a member of the debate team, shocker. Everyone always asks me about that. And I was also a student senator, very involved in a student government even back then. And please just remember to go out and vote and tell your friends how important this election is. It's always a pleasure. And for all the women that joined us this morning, thank you for taking the time. It's so important for women to support each other and to be honest about the challenges that we face together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we move over to Mr. Michael Rosenberg.
Most people that I speak to think that I'm an attorney, Michael Rosenberg, attorney. And it's interesting, I'm in the company in this meeting of, I think, 4 or 5 other attorneys. Everybody's an attorney but me. My degree is in music, in piano. I used to practice 4 and 5 hours a day, and came to Miami to get my master's degree in piano performance. I thought I was going to be a concert artist. And the reason I bring that up is because the music part inside you creates great empathy. I write music, I write songs, and you can't go to Amazon and order a song. You have to make it from what's inside you, and the inspiration has to come, something that you see that moves you to actually become translated into a composition with music and words. And so that part that's inside me is something that never goes away. And it's empathy and feeling for others. So when I talk to people that have issues, it's not like I just read it or hear it and go away. I feel it inside and it stays with me. And so that is one of the parts that I'm really proud about myself, is how I listen to people and how I respond to people. And depending on what it is, it could become a new song. So I'm proud of the musical background, what it's done for me.
Thank you so much. Now we move over to Ms. Cindy Lerner.
Again, thank you for this opportunity to talk to voters and concerned citizens. Fun fact, when I was a senior in high school, one of my favorite shows was the original, this dates me, but it was the original Mission Impossible. And there was the heroine, the CIA agent the actress was Barbara Bain. And I wanted to be just like her. So when I was a senior in high school, I actually wrote a letter to the CIA and I asked them what should I major in college to be a CIA agent? And they wrote me back. I still have that letter. And they basically said, we can't advise you now, you're a minor, but when you graduate college, if you're still interested, get back to us. Well, by the time I graduated college, I had different issues, interests, issues with the CIA for sure, but different interests in wanting to be an advocate and being more engaged in social issues than political. Well, now here I am. As an attorney, I did both. I was involved in social issues by virtue of working at juvenile court, motivated me to get political. And I've since been very involved at the state level, as a legislator, at the local level, as a mayor, but also got involved in the National League of Cities, became the chair of the Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee for the National League of Cities, which has empowered me and enabled me to be a better advocate for the environment. So I'm really proud to be able to say that I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, by the Florida Conservation Voters, by Ruthless, and several unions, including AFSCME Florida and the Teamsters Union, and 24 and counting current and former local, state, and congressional officials. Please go to my website, www.cindylerner.com, to learn more about my background, my policies, my priorities, my endorsements, and feel free to call on all my campaign material. I have always put my cell phone number, which is 305-992-3433. Again, thank you for this opportunity. And if the listeners do nothing else, be sure to vote in August. It is a very important election. It's not on many people's radar other than us candidates, but it's going to make a critical impact on the future of Miami-Dade County.
Thank you so much. Now we move over to Mr. Marlon Hill.
Last but not least, thank you to the members of the Women's Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for this opportunity to have breakfast and coffee with you. Despite being an attorney, contrary to popular belief from my fellow candidate, Mr. Rosenberg, we are also very creative people. You know, a fun fact about me is that if I was not a business lawyer, I would probably be a very well-known international DJ. I do believe in us tapping into our creative spirits. So if you're looking for an MC for your next event or party, just know that you can call Commissioner Hill to come in and host. You know, going into this election on August 18th, you know, we really have an opportunity to turn the page. You know, the tagline for my campaign from the very beginning is that it's a new day, es un nuevo día. And I really believe that. I say that every morning that I wake up, despite the challenges of COVID-19, you know, just trying to reaffirm to myself that it's a new day to chart your own destiny, to write your own new chapter, to address the challenge that you have, to pursue the dream that you have. And it's something that I really believe at my core that we need to do. You know, the one person that inspires me every day, you know, my wife, Carla, who has had her own health challenges as a kidney transplant recipient. She survived breast cancer twice, has really taught me about resilience, especially from women, right? And the only thing that we need is a support system in order to get us through the challenges of the day and to create that new day. And it's something that I lean on every day in terms of us pursuing greater resilience for the people of South Miami-Dade County. But it's also important to note that everyone here has a vested interest in the leadership that we're going to choose going into this new day for Miami-Dade County, a new mayor and new county commissioners. And even though each of us may represent a single member district, we are going to be making big decisions on behalf of the entire county and pursuing the challenges that we all have as neighbors and co-workers, etc. So my whole mission in this run is to really utilize all my talents and my servant leadership over the years and to bring that to the table. There are communities in South Dade that don't connect with each other. Let's tell the truth. Communities like Naranja and West Perrine and areas of Florida City, we drive by and pretend that things are going to change. We have to exhibit more empathy and compassion for each other throughout our counties, because whenever one community is not thriving, the entire county is not thriving. And we must be able to make these types of policy decisions and budget decisions in order to lift up every community. This is the reason why I'm running, to change these things, because for far too long, elected officials have not delivered on some of these commitments. And this is one of the reasons why my campaign continues to be driven primarily by individuals, not necessarily by endorsements. Not that endorsements are not a good thing, but I believe more strongly in the individual personal power of each business owner or each citizen and voter having a say in their government, matched up with those that are endorsing, whether they be elected officials, unions, and other lobbyists. So I'm hoping that each of you as members of this chamber will give me the opportunity to serve as one of your next commissioners and to be your partner, so that you can strive and thrive as well in your businesses and entrepreneurs. So your vote by mail is appearing in your mailbox this week. Please make sure you fill it out correctly. Sign the envelope, please. Please make sure that your signature matches with your voter registration card. This is very important. You can also track your vote by mail, Rosa, online to make sure that it's received by the elections department. And if you are, if you don't believe in vote by mail for whatever reason, please go out and vote early as well on August the 3rd. And of course, on August the 18th. You can learn more about me to connect with me at marlonhill.com. Social media on every platform, as I said, and my cell numbers in the chat room as well. Please reach out to me so that we can chart a new day for South Miami-Dade County and for District 9 as well on August 18th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we move over to Mr. Christian Mancera.
Thank you. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank this important body, the Women's Chamber of Commerce of Miami-Dade, for the opportunity to be in this platform to share my proposals for District 11. And I always have believed that inclusion and listening to every single stakeholder in the community, but most important of all, I believe that women have a very important role in how we build our communities, and being a part of the conversation and allowing women within my community to listen to all of my colleagues and myself proposing different ideas for the county, I think is a very important part of this electoral process. That being said, I want to be your District 11 commissioner because I believe I have the ideas, the leadership, and the education to bring new light into this district and into the Miami County Commission seat. And I believe that I have proposals based on entrepreneurships, technology, inclusion, that will help resolve most of the issues that we have at hand. And it's time that we elect people that really come from the community, people who are committed to the community, and people who are not tied to special interest, and people who really have that best interest at heart. I believe that there was a question earlier about campaign finance. You guys can go and see that I have been financing my campaign on my own, basically. And some other people have pitched in some monies, but we don't have a lot of resources. But what we do have is a lot of volunteers, a lot of people who are extremely committed to our campaign, who believe in the message. And when we are going to keep moving forward until we move forward into August 18th, and hopefully everybody within District 11 will take note of what we are proposing, and that we can actually bring to the table new leadership into Miami-Dade County. A fun fact about me is that I am an aviator lover. When I was in high school in New York, I applied, before I decided to study law, I applied for aviation high school. I was admitted. There's a high school in New York that is financed, at least at that time, by the United States Air Force. I still remember receiving the letter of admission to this high school. But at that time, the whole John F. Kennedy hype came about because we had the Oliver Stone movie, and I began to get so much involved in who was John Kennedy and what he represented, and I became so inspired by him. And I decided then that I would study law. By the way, my dreams of being a pilot were like diminished because since I was a little kid, I loved Eastern Airlines. I was like, I'm a big fan. I'm still a big fan of Eastern, and I used to travel with Eastern all the time. And when my parents did not fly in Eastern, I would like go crazy, and they would just say like, we have to fly in Eastern. I think I was the best travel agent for Eastern at the time. And when Eastern went out of business, it coincided with that time in which I was being accepted into this high school because I wanted to be a pilot of Eastern. Little did I know that Eastern actually came back a few years now and is now traveling. So, but I am happy to be a lawyer, and I dream of piloting a little Cessna. That's one of my priorities. Hopefully, in the near future, I will be able to complete that. And that's a fun fact that I also, like Mr. Marlon Hill, I was a DJ in high school and in college. So we have this creative idea. So and by the way, I used to do parties also. So we have this creative side. So that's a fun fact about me, and I'm really happy to be a part of this group of intelligent and valuable people, and being able to attend this meeting. And to all the voters who are watching, remember that August 18th is the opportunity to bring about new leadership, to bring about a change in the Miami Commission seat. Here you have my proposal, but you also have a variety of different leaders here who are also proposing different alternatives. And I think it's high time that we change or bring a new air into how we do politics in Miami-Dade County. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you. And on behalf of the Women's Chamber of Commerce of Miami-Dade County, I want to thank all the attendees that took time out of their morning to join us, and a special thank you to all the candidates that took time out of their busy schedules to join us as well. We want to go ahead and remind all Miami-Dade voters that the primaries take place on August 18th. August 8th is the last day to request your vote by mail, and August 3rd is when early voting begins. So please go out and vote, or if you're voting by mail, do that as well. And please, everyone, stay safe. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Well, bye.
Thank you.